it's as we were talking about here before we flipped over, things are a little different this year. We already knew that Mayday was going into sort of a chrysalis year, and but I don't know. Maybe everybody at Heart of the Beast knew what that meant, but I didn't know. I thought it was just a fancy way to say, we're taking a break. We don't want to think about this for a while. But it certainly seems to me, especially considering all the people that I have coming into the call here now, like it's almost busier than ever, and more in the way that when everybody plans up to Mayday, thousands of people show up, but not as many thousands of people participate in the creating of what goes into the parade. So a lot of people don't really realize, that these workshops happen beforehand, and the puppets have to come from somewhere, the art comes from somewhere. And I'm talking to a few people here who have been involved in the creating of that art for the peek into the chrysalis of this year. 'Cause normally you're not supposed to like peek through and see what's happening in a chrysalis. I don't You're not supposed to do that, but we're doing that now because, everything's out the window. So you may as well see, if there's what the caterpillar's doing in there. So let's talk to a couple caterpillars here. Who have we got on the line?
So I'll go. My name is Amanda Rodriguez, and I'm the new community programs manager at Heart of the Beast. And yes, we Mayday had made a choice due to some community feedback to take a break from Mayday this year and really just cocoon up and think about how can we make this a more socially just, centered, equitable parade, and how can Mayday really become the center of all the work that we do at Heart of the Beast? So the idea was, we're a caterpillar, and we're going to create a chrysalis and really just reset and transform into what we want to be. And we gathered a consulting group that is called Free Black Dirt to help us, as well as had some community group formed called the Mayday Council, and they've been working really hard all year to really figure out what Mayday looks like in the future moving on. Serita, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Well, I guess I would add, just as a participant, I've been in the Mayday Parade for many years with Janata and Janata Petrus's section. Janata is part of Free Black Dirt with Aaron Sharkey. And yeah, I am my name's Serita Colette. I use she, her, they, them pronouns. I'm a healer. And so when I came into these like sections with Janata each year, it really was a really powerful healing practice. There were a lot of youth, so we got to like work with youth and make customs. And yeah, the behind the scenes is nuts. You would walk into Heart of the Beast, like all of the chairs like for normal theater are gone, and they open it up into this like huge art making space, and then each section of the parade has a section in the theater. And the first year I was quite overwhelmed. It was like, I don't know how much time I can spend in here because there's just like confetti everywhere, like of just the art making process. And then I kind of got used to it, and it really busy, hectic stuff going on actually made it so worthwhile the day of. In fact, like I was saying to a friend that like the sweetest part for me was always when we turned the corner on Bloomington and you knew you were like maybe 2 blocks to the park, and it's like, oh my God, we made it. Yeah, so I'm really glad that organizers came together to create something now in lieu of the fact that Heart of the Beast Mayday Council decided to take a break this year, just to have a way to connect for community.
I'm glad that they found a way too. I remember it being such a big deal last year because, again, from the outside world, it didn't really seem like anything was necessarily wrong with Mayday. What do you need? What do you need to change, except for the fact that it costs a lot of money and is sort of bigger than what it ever was imagined to be now. And as with a lot of things that are run by volunteers and small amounts of donations, people do not realize, like, this doesn't happen for free. This doesn't just spring out from the love of the community. As beautiful as that sounds, like, the love in our hearts does not does not pay for a lot of space or even materials. So there's a bit of blessing to having to reform in this way. But maybe, Amanda, maybe you can speak more to how it was decided that there's not even really a parade. Like, sort of, we are the parade. It's not so much a physical march down a road. It's a great spiritual thing.
Yeah, well, if anyone wants to jump on and talk any specifics about the community feedback, because I know that there was a lot that had to go into the decision of why to take that pause and that time of Chrysalis. A lot of that having to do with exploitation of labor and not being able to pay artists the way that we should have and need to. Right. And also some cultural appropriation issues, and I don't necessarily know details beyond that. Okay. So if anybody else in this group wants to add anything to that, that was another reason, besides it costs so much money to put on this big of an event, is one of the reasons for this retreating and revisioning. As far as why we decided we are Mayday and we need to connect is, we went back and forth a lot with the Mayday Council of if we should do something at all, because we were dedicating our time to Chrysalis. Right. So, we decided that now more than ever, we need that Mayday spirit. We need that Mayday vibe to keep us going, to connect us, to heal us, to help us grieve, and to put money in our artists' hands. We just did some really great workshops leading up to what will be our big Mayday celebration on May 3rd. So that has been a lot of fun. Graci, Horne, who's with us, has done some of that. Ifrah, Mansour has done a workshop with us, and then Serita will be doing some workshops on the 3rd.
Well, great. Now let's take a real quick break, because yes, we did have 2 new people join us, and rather than just throwing them right onto the air, it's like, hey, speak on that. It's your turn. We will be right back here. I'm talking awesome. With a round table of folks from the Heart of the Beast, Puppet and Mask Theater, talking about the Chrysalis MayDay and how it turns out there is a Mayday. It's happening, and guess what? It's all of us. So we'll be right back. How many people have you have more. Graci Horne has joined us.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I saw you doing a workshop online just about a week ago. So to recenter what we were doing here, a lot of the things that used to happen on a lower level at the Heart of the Beast, where people would be making the art that would then go into the parade, thousands of people wouldn't really even think that, hey, you know, there's a whole organization putting these things together, and they don't just, you know, appear on the 3rd of May and suddenly they're all walking down Bloomington. There's a whole couple weeks leading up to it of community workshops that, you know, given the state of our physical community right now, might not have happened, especially in this Chrysalis year. And so Graci and a couple others who are joining us today have been walking people through making some of that art in their home.
Yeah, I think it's been different for me because I'm counting this as my 4th MayDay year. Prior, I had been a MayDay artist for the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. One of which I was pregnant. I was 5-6 months pregnant, and then last year I had a newborn. So this year has been a little bit easier for me, as I can do it from my home, and my baby could just be in the living room making art herself and watching a movie. And so it's been a little bit easier just being an artist mama. But otherwise it's different. I feel like this is the year for introverts, and I was just thinking about that because I'm technically an introvert. And so when I was first approached with this by Janata Petrus and Aaron Sharkey, I was like, I don't know. I've been told that I'm a very monotone person, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So it went very well, and I was very pleased with the outcome. And it just made me think like, well, this is different, because as an artist working in Minneapolis and in St. Paul, you're like bustling around between contracts. And even this, like I've done stuff with KFAI, you have to physically go there and do an interview. And it's like, it's a lot, you know, you have to get in your car, you know, make sure you get there, make sure you're, you know, robust for an interview. And here we are just clicking on a link and being able to share. And it's great. And I don't have to leave anywhere. There's no extra cost for gas and for time. So I think that it's definitely going to be changing things in the future. And as far as MayDay goes, you know, I feel just as an artist, every year we did our due diligence to talk about what we can change, what we can make better. And there were behind the scenes situations where we felt like there needed to be change. It had been decades of the same exact thing that had happened. And unfortunately, those same things were not good for the Native community or for the people of color community. There just needed to be a change. And I feel like Heart of the Beast is a champion in my eyes, just as they put it out there. They said white supremacy needs to end, and it needs to end within the arts, within the arts demographic in Minnesota. And so I feel that we kind of get into, as people, we kind of get into this thing where it's like every year the same thing needs to happen. Every year this needs to happen. And I feel like when you really want change, the best thing is to sit back and look at what needs to be changed and give it a break. And so I know initially that Heart of the Beast and the MayDay Council were just going to do something small in the park, and it changed into this. And I'm just so fortunate for it that it has blossomed. It has been a chrysalis. It has become a butterfly, where we're getting this time to really think and reframe those changes that need to take place. Because myself and, you know, Amanda and Ifrah and Mark has been, I hope he jumps on, but he's been there for a really long time. It's artists that, you know, that are coming up, and then also artists that are going to be, you know, appearing in the next 5 to 10 years. It's us thinking about what needs to change for them to develop, what needs to happen for them to be a voice and a beacon for their own communities. And so I feel like it's been gradual. I think the first year I was with them, it was like the quintessential MayDay artist feeling. And then the next year I just worked with the Migizi Communications group. That's a Native organization. I just like specifically worked in their organization and got paid by them, and got paid handsomely by them. They like put their funding towards it, and it came out beautiful. It was me working with my community. And so now it's like it's like another change where I'm doing it via live stream. And so it's been changing every year since I've been a part of it. And I feel like it's if we stay on this path, that it will bring something better, something that is MayDay needs to represent all facets of the community. This is Dakota land. It needs to be representative of the people that come from this land, and it comes from all the facets of this community again. So I guess I'm just looking forward to the future, to when we get to be together, but also just being a little introvert myself. I'm really appreciating how it is now. I think that this can be a new form of art.
Right. I think one of the most beautiful things about all of this and the way that it's come together during this year, when people were sort of expecting everything to lay low, is that we are, tackling some of these tougher topics that would have been a lot tougher for a lot of people to face, face to face in the park. And, it gives us a lot more breathing room to be able to introduce these ideas and be able to say things like what you're saying without somebody saying, hey, wait a minute, that's not me, I'm not like that.
Yeah,
like
and it's not to say that people haven't been. I feel like I really get the wind beneath my sails from others
right.
that are fearless in this. And there have been so many men and women that have throughout the years have said the same exact thing. And it literally took a pandemic for it to change, because even before this, there was still a discussion about MayDay 2020 and a completely different group wanting to continue the parade. And so it literally took a pandemic for us to be like, okay, we cannot, just like the earth right now, I don't want to get so philosophical, but just like the earth, there's things that we needed to change. And this is it. We're forced into it. And unfortunately, sometimes, just like our moms had to do to us, separate us and take a few breaths. Unfortunately, that's what we're having to do right now.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Serita, you have something to add there?
Well, I guess I'm kind of curious about, two things. I really appreciate this conversation a lot. One thing I thought about was I'm on a Subversive Siren swim team with Aaron Sharkey's wife. Yeah.
She's been in here before, I think. Yeah, she was on one of the podcasts here a while ago.
Chloe Holloman and I are on the Subversive Sirens, and we talk a lot about equity in the arts. And I feel like one thing I think about when in this discussion is, like, every time that I participated in MayDay, I often found the people who were donating the most time and funds were often from our own community. Yet you would march along this, long avenue and find, like, there's just tons of people beyond Minneapolis and St. Paul coming to this event, but not giving any money. So I appreciate this conversation. And I also was just kind of curious to ask, like, both of you, Graci, and also of you, Ifrah, of what your experience is. Not trying to, like, bogart the interview, but, like, I'm really curious what the experience is for an artist to give a workshop online without having actual community in front of them. I've been doing a ton of healing justice workshops When I say a ton, I've just done a couple since the quarantine. And the last one I had about like 70 participants, and it was like once it ended, it ended. So there's no conversation, there's no hugs, there's no like, hey, do you want to like go and get tea afterward? It's over. And it's both like beautiful and also really hard sometimes because I can't feel. And I know as an artist as well, that's like a big part of the relationship is when we're offering work or even in practice, we're around people physically. So I'm just kind of curious when you're in the space of doing these virtual workshops, like how you feel afterwards.
Ifrah, you want to go first?
Hi, everyone. It's so lovely to hear you all and to hear your perspectives. Apologies, I am living right next to a construction that won't even stop for this craziness. They are hammering away. It was doing the virtual online workshop was definitely different. But I felt like I got a little bit of practice. I teach a little bit. I am an ELO as a substitute teacher. So the first 2 weeks of the the beginning of the pandemic, I was just on the phone describing things and just feeling so far removed from these students that would normally be touching my hand. They would be touching my scarf, and it's it's interesting to think of like this the tangible feeling of like humanlessness. And I literally talked about in my workshop that one of the things I look so forward to about Mayday is just the human connection, like the hugs that I get, because it feels like the whole winter you are like isolated from those that you love normally. And now it's interesting to look forward to a Mayday without a human connection, and also just the ability to even touch those giant, beautiful, creatures. And actually, I am a very selfish Minnesota artist because till this epidemic, I had secretly refused to participate Mayday as an artist because I've always just wanted to receive it. Just show up, wear the most craziest, a beautiful outfit and just show myself off, yell and just hug everything, the trees, the everything. So it's for me, like I feel like I'm in this like beautiful new serendipitous connection to Mayday. It's beautiful and complicating to hear the deep need for Mayday to change and to reflect the humans that live in Minnesota and call Minnesota home. I think I too, like I feel like there was something that you said, Graci? I made a note of it about the wind beneath your feet. I'm always like, as I'm like bulldozing through the 94 via bus or just by it, I'm just reminded of like the deep pain that it was once like, homes and a burial site to indigenous folks to Africa. So if we live in a state that's filled with so much unrecognized brown people historical pain that it feels even a privilege to be even working on it just a little bit, because from my own work, I work with these giant institutions that are not even that mind space. So I feel just a little bit grateful that Mayday is in that space of like recognizing and possibly what is it changing. So it's a beautiful reflective time, and I can't wait for a new MayDay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like, thank you for asking that question, Serita, because I guess I'm in this place where, just like Ifrah, I've never have done a live stream before in my life, and having to troubleshoot a lot of things because when we did the first initial practice rounds, I had to get a second view of my hands just so people could see what I was doing. And then we had to troubleshoot sound and all this stuff. And it was all, everything turned out, I guess it was kind of dependent on your connection too, because I did make a point in saying in the beginning that every time that there was a land acknowledgement that Amanda gracefully did, I said, you know, there's people from my reservation that are watching right now, and they were the ones that were exiled out of Minnesota. And so that, to us, it's very healing. It's like you get that feeling that somebody really cares about our history. And so but unfortunately, I guess I've been kind of reflecting since the 2 workshops I did, and I started to feel like, well, you know, sometimes the connection with the internet isn't always equitable either, you know. And I know that there's a lot of even on the Navajo reservation right now, they're having problems with online schooling because of the internet. And so, and some of the people back home were saying, yes, I watched it, but there was like some like skips, and there's a lag in the relay. And so I just realized, like, okay, well, although I really like this, I wish that the online experience was more equitable, that wherever we were living, that you could experience the same way as somebody that has faster internet in the cities. So I guess like that was a difference that I didn't anticipate. And as far as just the online in-person interaction, I teach different places in both Minneapolis and St. Paul, and with different organizations, not necessarily in a school setting. And I do appreciate that, you know, the kids, I work with all ages, so like kids or adults or elders will come up and ask me more questions about things, and I can really connect with them, and it gives me that connection. But selfishly, there's always this part of me where I feel, even with art itself, it's not equitable for artist families, because it's a lot of work that a lot of us can't afford to do daycare. We can't afford to do the quintessential drop off your child at a daycare. That's about like $2,000 a month. And if you are a mother, if you are a woman, and you are an artist, it's a lot of work. You're constantly being judged on, you know, are you working enough? If you're a stay-at-home mom, like, are you giving up on your dreams? Or if you are working, it's like, well, then, you know, you're abandoning or neglecting your responsibility as a mother. So there's always like that give and take as being a woman, and it gets even a little bit more complicated being an artist. And so for me, it's, and selfishly, I just say this, it's been a little bit more easy for me just being a mom and being an artist. I'm not having to drive 20 minutes to West St. Paul to my aunt's to drop off my child, you know, and then driving to where I need to be and doing my thing, and then going back, and like I'm in the car, and it's the same thing after school daycare or after school care for my son who's school age. So it's like juggling 2 children, but at the same time trying to juggle my dreams and aspirations for this community specifically. So it's different, I guess. For me, I feel that that I'm getting compensated for what I should be compensated for the time I'm putting in. Now it's a different story that I have, like, that's the background story, is that I have to have childcare. I have to do A, B, and C before I get to D. And so for me right now, I'm kind of like lapping it up. Like, it's great right now because I don't need to like run around with my head cut off. And I would love to have tea with somebody after my workshop. I would love to stay there and be in the moment. But, you know, for me as a mom, it's like, nope, the clock is ticking. I have to go back and get my child. So for this, it's like, it's just been, I guess my selfish opinion, has just been a little bit more easy. And I think that was what I was trying to point out with the other MayDay artists and the theater itself, Heart of the Beast, that it's a struggle, you know, to be an artist and a parent, you know, but it's even more of a struggle to be a mother and an artist, because there's a little bit more stigma that's attached to it, you know, that is more standards. You know, you could be a artist male and take off somewhere and the wife's going to watch the kid, but if you're the mom, it's like you get more stigma when it comes to that. So I guess for me, I'm just in a place where I'm like, I'm just getting a breather right now at what I normally do every single week.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. And yeah, that's actually part of why I believe we were approached to try to get involved, to be involved in the workshops, but they turned out to be, you know, more visually oriented than what we can do here on the radio. But on Sunday, Serita is going to be doing a healing meditation that's going to be broadcast on the internet, but we're also going to broadcast it on the air for people who, you know, like you said, there's the subtle privilege that people don't think of when they say, oh, you know, just get on your computer and go here, and, you know, it's not so bad. We can all just go and watch Netflix all day, right? But, you know, a lot of people don't have these connections. And so, God, there's so much, especially when you're speaking about the institutional stuff at Heart of the Beast. When I think about, you know, we're an institution here that's about the same age. We came up in the same neighborhood, and we deal with a lot of the same struggles with identity and the way that things have to change around here, and the way that people say, oh yes, we got to change these things. But then, you know, just like you said, this year there was already the plan of, you know, MayDay 2020 going to look exactly like MayDay 2019, because sometimes there's a group of people who are trying to do the work and trying to do the correct acknowledgments, while there's still the whole other group say, okay, great, you guys do that, we're going to go and do the fun thing over here. And I'm so
glad. And that's okay, you know, if that group feels that strongly for tradition, it's the way we are as humans. It's whether not all of us are going to have the same opinions about it, and that's completely fine too. But it's like fate kind of stepped in on this thing. It's the last 3 years that I was with it, and every single year it was this need for change, and people like voicing those opinions and sharing emotions, sharing their emotions with feeling like they were being stereotyped, or feeling, and this was, you know, both during the parade or during the making of it or at the actual event, feeling like there was a disconnect, that it didn't represent themselves. And I guess for myself, growing up in Minnesota and being a part of the parade since I was little, very, very little, it was my first art form, was making puppets. Feeling like all these years that I don't see much representation in myself. Right. You know, and it being the same themes, you know, every year. And so it's kind of like artistically, art-wise, there always needs to be a point of criticism. Always. Right. That's the only way we all evolve, is if there's art criticism. And it sucks. Like, I've been at the end of that, and it's not fun, because somebody telling you not to do something or something doesn't work, you just feel so shameful. And so I guess, like, I understand that it takes a lot of courage to take it and to make a change. And I commend people for doing that. And so, you know, it's eventually, you know, it'll pick up. There's going to be a Mayday 2021. You know, there's going to be, it's always going to be that way. And that's just how our interaction is. We're always not going to be on the same page.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't want to call it a silver lining, but there is, you know, the thing that's happened in a couple weeks is that, you know, there is suddenly this vacuum in the air where people are sort of, you know, like you said, pulled back like two kids about to fight on the playground and say, whoa, what's in the middle here? And there's finally all this space to look and think and to meditate and to heal. And to heal in our own ways and, you know, heal in our own separate homes, still connecting together and still, you know, still having those essential connections with our community, but not at such an accelerated pace where those kind of things can be harder. And, you know, I keep trying to look at the bright sides of these things, and that's the best I've seen. And one of the brightest things is that, you know, is that Heart of the Beast will continue to do something. Like things aren't just going to go completely black for the year, you know, especially with many other arts organizations saying, well, okay, that's enough from us for now. Just at the time when you were already saying, okay, we're gonna chill for a year, like you guys have come back and said, okay, we're still gonna chill for a year. We're still doing the work. We're still, you know, doing our due diligence, but we're also providing for the community in the way that we can, in the safest way that we can, and in the most fulfilling way that we can. Serita, could you talk a little bit about what you're going to do at 11 o'clock on Sunday?
Yeah, so Aaron Sharkey had called me maybe like a month ago and was like, you know, we wanted to really bring forth this theme of chrysalis, but also recognize grief and mourning during this time. So I work from my people's tradition of Ayurveda and yoga. And I've done a lot of work around emotions and also grief and death. And I think that, you know, when I was asked, I was like, okay, what will this look like? I think there's like two sides of it. One is that all of us have been in this quarantine pandemic. I know a lot of people are taking in way too much news, way too many Zoom calls, way too much screen time, and people are exhausted. And some of the things I've been thinking about is like, how are sustainable healing practices necessary now to show up after this pandemic? Because we do have to like figure out how to sustain ourselves when this is over with. And there is, you know, as Prentice Temple says, like, trauma is inherent to life. So this pandemic has actually like created a facet of trauma for everyone. And so one way for me to recognize like how to sit with what is troubling, what is complicated, what is difficult in life is to recognize grief. Recognize what's happening in the state of the world, recognize what's happening in this country, and in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And so the meditation practice, I'll do like an embodiment practice, because I think, you know, we spend so much time in front of the screen right now. It's like, how often have you just like squeezed your shoulders and given yourself a facial massage, given yourself like loving touch? And then I have like some music, which I'll probably discuss with someone, maybe you at KFAI later, about how to put that together. But I have a song from a meditation album that I put together kind of in response to how I've been feeling with everything going on. So that'll play. And then also just an opportunity to give people tools. Like, what are the tools we can use now? Some breath work, some guided meditation, just to to ground, and that it is really like a ceremony, a ritual and ceremony of recognizing the grief that we're holding, but also recognizing resilience. And I'm really careful with that word because I think for a lot of BIPOC communities, we're expected to be really resilient and bounce back.
Mm.
We're expected to like create this beautiful art in this time of trauma and uncertainty and be like the warriors or whatever of this time. And it's like, maybe not, you know, maybe resilience is actually just recognizing that you're having a hard time and you are right where you need to be, and that tomorrow will be a different day, or it might be the same day, but there's no shame or guilt in that. So kind of a paradigm shift of how we think about resilience and how that can be healing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we have been here for a very long time, and I know I'm going to have to cut some of this stuff to be able to go on the air, but a lot of it is, I'm going to put everything online because we had some really important discussions beyond, so you make puppets, what's that like? That sort of thing. And I'm grateful for all of you for taking the time out today to talk with me. Is there anything that anybody wants to, you know, express while you have the radio airwaves?
Just happy May Day. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being a part of this with us. We have a workshop tonight with Mike Hoyt at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And that will be on Facebook Live. So just find us on our page on Facebook, and you'll be able to join along or just watch if you'd like. And happy May Day.
Hooray. And all of these workshops are archived there. So if anybody's hearing this later, they can go to the Heart of the Beast Facebook page and find it there.
Yes, all of our past workshops are there. Yep,
right.
And all of the information for Sunday, May 3rd, the big May Day celebration with Serita and others is on our Facebook and our website, hobt.org.
Wonderful. I assume are there suggestions there on how people should celebrate at home? Because it just occurred to me now. I know that we were segueing out of here, but I just realized, you know, we're putting all this together, but how do people actually use all of this to then, you know, enjoy themselves at home? Because the feeling of revelry is, it's going to be very different whether we've, you know, successfully created art together in this space or not.
Absolutely. I want to, I know that you have to edit this and we're trying to wrap it up, but I want to give
totally
it,
fine.
I want to give it some justice.
Yeah.
And if anybody else would like to hop on, feel free, but I want to just go and look at what we have written up. So what we've been, what we're planning to do on May 3rd is, of course, hold that space with Serita for grieving and healing, which they explained is so important at this time of collective trauma. And then we will be, my computer's really thinking about taking me to where I need to go.
Yeah.
But
it's okay. I mean, if you want to send me a thing, I can share it afterwards after the thing is aired too. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
no, we're fine. I'm just trying to go fast.
So
that will be at 11 a.m. And then at 12 p.m. we'll be doing a revealing of this Rooted in Resources community map that we have put together with our new interim co-executive directors, Lisa Marie Brimmer, who's a part of Free Black Dirt, and Claire Curran. Then 12:30 p.m. we have a May Day artist sharing and panel, and so Serita will be on that, Graci will be on that, Mike, who is doing the workshop tonight and couldn't make it for this airing, will be there, Ifrah will be there, and it will be facilitated by our May Day council member named Yordi. And at 1:30 p.m., Free Black Dirt will be doing one of their Dirty Talk discussions, and that will be Lisa, Janata, and Aaron. And then 2:30, which is how all of us come together at the end is try to do a community sing from our living rooms, our porches, our front doors, however we'd like to do that safely, and sing a song. So that'll be exciting to learn what that is on Sunday.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like a good time for people to try to, if you're going to get outside and bike around the neighborhood, see if you could find people singing along.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I would just say that just a big thank you. I mean, for me, being a part of this and in wanting to see something different, and just the hard work of the new, some of the new Heart of the Beast administration, just all the things that they've been doing is so much appreciated. So I guess I would just like to even say thank you to Corey Zoll, who was the past director, who was there when I was there, and who did his hardest just to make something different. So all those people that are unsung heroes, thank you for all the work that you do and all the work that you continue to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add that for folks listening that have the access to funds to give your money to QT BIPOC, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, Native, POC artists. We've all lost a lot of jobs and gigs, and this is an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I want to support these people. And also to funders. There's a lot of funding organizations right now that are sitting on millions of dollars. And one of the things I've been thinking about is how to make my work, I've always been thinking about how to make my work accessible, particularly to QT BIPOC communities. And I'm seeing more now than ever that it can't just be these one-time donations from specific people in community. It actually needs to be these bigger institutions and organizations. So I do ask to those people who are listening to consider to look up everybody that's part of this and make connections to support our work.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the moment to do that. Absolutely, that's important. I don't want to skip you further, but they may be there might still be construction happening over there. So on that note, we will see everybody in the May Day world this Sunday. You can tune in 11 a.m. here, normally where Lavaz del Pueblo is played, and we will have a healing and grief meditation all together. And find your way out into the community in the safest way that you can, even that's in your own kitchen this Sunday, and celebrate May Day, because it's all of us.